We have a very special guest here in our studio, Tasha Kheiriddin, and Tasha has written a book, The Right Path, How Conservatives Can Unite, Inspire and Take Canada Forward. So very interesting subject she has chosen, and this book has already been published. You can see this book, and we are going to talk to Tasha regarding this book, how this idea came into her mind, what inspired her to write this book. First of all, welcome to studio in the Parvasi Media Group's this studio.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much, Rajinder.
First of all, tell our readers and our listeners, our viewers about your background. I know a little bit about you. You worked with very mainstream media outlets. You worked with some time for the party also, but tell us more about you.
So I am a person of many hats. I started off as a lawyer, actually, in Montreal.
Okay.
And I realized very quickly that I wasn't as enamored of the law as I thought I would be. And at the same time, I was very involved in politics in the former Progressive Conservative Party.
Okay.
So I was doing two things at the same time, and I ended up working in Toronto for a minister in the Harris government for the Attorney General. Mm-hmm. And then I got recruited into television. It was very serendipitous because of my political connections.
Okay.
CBC asked me to produce a television show. That was in 1998.
Okay.
And I really loved media. As you know, it's a lot of fun. You get to meet interesting people and talk to people about ideas. And so I got into broadcast journalism, and I worked for CBC, then CPAC. I had a number of shows there.
Okay.
I had a show on CTV National News, and I had a radio show with Chorus for 3 years. And in between all these things, I worked for a couple of think tanks as well, the Fraser Institute, Canadian Taxpayers Federation. I taught at McGill University, and I wrote a book about conservatism, a first book, back in 2005.
Okay.
And this is the book you mentioned is sort of a follow-up, much later, to give some direction to the party. It's been a passion of mine. Politics has been a passion for pretty much my entire life.
I'm surprised and amazed you did so many things in such a short span of life. Anyway, coming back to this book. So now the party is going through this leadership election, and I'm sure on 10th of September they will elect the new leader who is going to challenge Mr. Trudeau in the next elections, federal elections. So at this time, when party is going through lots of challenges, it's believed that there are so many factions, so many groups. You have written a book that how they can come on track and once again lead the country. So what inspired you for this follow-up book?
Well, I started writing after the last election in October of 2021 when they lost for the third time. And I thought to myself, okay, now I think there's some space for conversation. We have to figure something out because they can't lose again. If they lose again, it's going to be very bad. So I started talking to various conservatives and thinking myself of ideas of what had gone wrong, what could be changed. And then as I kept writing it, I got a book contract, and then the convoy happened in February, January of this year, and suddenly Aaron O'Toole had no job, and they were plunged into a leadership race. And so the book, took on a new life because there was this interest now in the membership as well for new direction for the party. So I talked to hundreds of conservatives. I actually threw my hat in the ring for a little bit to see if I would run. A lot of people asked me if I would.
But you talk to only conservatives or people who are not conservatives?
Mostly conservatives.
Okay.
And the reason was I wanted to see, it's both old and new voices of, what they saw as the future of the party, what appealed to them, what didn't. And it also, as the candidates put out their ideas too, why were they supporting certain ones? I spoke to Poilievre supporters and Charest supporters and Brown supporters and all sorts of people. Did a history of both populism and conservatism, because those are the two real currents right now in the book, and to come to a conclusion as to can you unite people from different viewpoints and which should take us forward.
Okay, so when I started my media company in 2002, conservatives were doing very badly. Then they got united, and at one time they were a real challenge to the Liberal Party. Earlier we were thinking that they will never be united, they never be a united force. And then a time came in Harper era when after a couple of minorities they could win majority government. And he really did well. I mean, overall Harper did well. And Jason Kenney, we believe, was the instrumental guy who was outreaching to the diverse communities, visible minorities, and I think he played a wonderful role, very, very strong role to bring the majority government for conservatives. And once they lost, he moved to Alberta for the provincial politics, and since then we can see there is a decline, there is a big, crisis in the party. And what I can tell you from my experience is that Mr. Scheer was a soft guy. At that time we were thinking that conservative may come back to power, but it didn't happen. Then came pandemic, and being a very active media guy, we are one of the leading South Asian or ethnic media group in the country. And in that span of Mr. Aaron O'Toole, we could never meet him. He never contacted us. He never contacted the people in this area, in Peel region or 905 area. So I was surprised. I mean, people hardly knew about him. So here we are now, and the advantage the Liberal Party was taking, that they don't have any strong opposition here. Okay, they don't have any strong opponents, and it's cakewalk for them. And now when they are again looking for a new leader, I don't know who's going to win. On most probably it looks that Pierre Poilievre is in lead. We don't know what party members decide ultimately. What is your opinion now after writing this book and talking to many people? What option they have now?
Well, just to rewind to a couple of things you said, because I think it's very important. Jason Kenney was very important for the Conservatives because he did that outreach and he recognized the importance, and not simply from a vote perspective, but the fact, and this is what I researched in the book, is that today 1 in 5 Canadians was born somewhere else. In 10 years, it's going to be 1 in 3.
Yeah.
And immigration has built the country since its beginnings. It's accelerating because of issues around the labor force. We don't have enough children to replace ourselves. We need workers. We need people. So immigration is going to drive, demographics is going to drive politics.
Yeah.
And you have to recognize that because people need representation. Yeah. And the Conservative Party has not been very representative.
Yes.
The Liberals have many more candidates.
But the new ridings.
Yeah, they had, the most Sikh candidates ever was in 2015. The Liberals
20?
had, I think, 16 of them or something.
Yeah,
and the Conservatives had 1.
Yeah.
So, this shows you that the effort to recruit people and be diverse and represent, that's one thing the Conservatives have not done. So they have to do that. The other thing, too, though, is as communities, people come to Canada, what are they looking for? They're looking for opportunity for themselves, for their children. Conservatism can offer a lot to that. It believes in the values that it has. The faith, family, free enterprise is the shorthand they have in the United States, but it's common here as well. And that has been, it hasn't been emphasized enough, I think. And in 2015, when the barbaric practices tip line came out, the party knows, and it had a report this year showing that really hurt, and undid the work that Jason Kenney did. Yeah. It undid a lot, and it hasn't been repaired since. To your point, there hasn't been enough outreach. There haven't been enough presence. People have not bothered to show up. And so they're in the situation they are in now. So the challenge is really for the next leader is going forward, is rebuilding those bridges and showing, new Canadians, immigrants, why should you be a Conservative? Yeah. What is appealing? How do I reach you as a Conservative? How do I reach you to say join this club, basically? Yeah.
Okay, so Pierre Poilievre was our guest here in the studio last month. I have interviewed him a couple of times earlier too. So I had a simple question for him. My question was that you have a strong presence in Alberta, Saskatchewan, all those areas. You can win easily 100 seats, 110, 120 seats, which they could win again. Time and again, they will be winning 100 seats to 120 seats. To get a majority, you need 165 seats. I said, in 905 areas and all those new ridings which have been created over the last 5-10 years, these all are immigrants representative dominant ridings. So somehow Conservative Party couldn't put strong candidates over there, their strong presence over there. So to bring in a majority government, you need 40 to 50 extra seats. From where those seats will come? So that's what my question to him.
What did he say?
So anyway, so he said yes, we need to put more presence in those ridings. We need to keep coming, outreaching to those people, telling them our policies, and making them aware of our policies. Yes, right now what I can see is people are frustrated with the Trudeau government. Every day we see chaos on the airports, economy is doing bad. Everywhere we can see problems in this country which we have never seen earlier. So of course, and this is third minority government now. So people want change. There is no question about that. Any strong conservative leader can win a strong majority government. I can tell you from my experience, whatever I am dealing with the communities over there. So who that can lead, that leader that can be? That is the big question right now. So second question which I asked him was that many times I have seen the old conservatives, the think tanks, they are still dealing with indulging into those issues which are non-issue. I feel same-sex marriage, abortion, many other issues which are not, people are not bothered about them. They are bothered about the inflation, housing prices. They deal with these challenges every day. So I don't know how much they can focus on these issues which actually Canadians are facing, instead of fighting for all those issues, old issues for last centuries. They are just still indulging themselves and putting a lot of time for those issues. So if they come out and understand the nerve of the Canadians, what they want, and fight for those issues which actually relates to them, I'm sure they can definitely reach out, and their leader and plus their whole leadership team, they need to reach out to the diverse communities, visible minorities, because it is a perception, and I can tell you very honestly, that conservatives are against anti-immigrants and liberals are pro-immigrants, which I also feel is not true, but the perception is there, and you need to change that. So that's what
I 100% agree. The candidate in Whitby last time was a Muslim woman, and she told me, she said at the door, people would say to me, "You're racist."
Yeah.
And she's, I'm not racist. But that was the perception. And that perception has to be eliminated 100%, because, and this is the issue, is that once people think that of you, they're not predisposed to listen to you. Your point is interesting, Rajinder, because you say that conservatives have to go and explain themselves and their policies. And that's what, Pierre said too. They also have to listen. Right? And it's a dialogue. You have to go when you meet people, is listen to what they are saying and listen to what communities are saying. And if they tell you, my number one concern is inflation, or the price of housing, housing affordability, anything, that you have to listen to that and understand that the issues you mentioned, the other ones, they're not on the table. And I agree. The redistribution in cities has hurt the Conservatives since the 1960s. Yeah. It's actually, the research shows they have been declining since the 1960s in cities across Canada, because they are not addressing the concerns of urban voters. They stay with the rural voters very much. And Western voters, they have a huge base, but it doesn't help you to get 70% in a riding in Western Canada if you're getting 25% in Brampton or Malton or wherever. It doesn't help you. So the real challenge is to have that dialogue and to explain also what conservatism is, right? Which, as I said, it's not, conservatism actually isn't populism. We talk a lot about populism now. Conservatism was actually invented as an antidote to populism. It's about incremental change, respect for tradition, very many values that New Canadians share. And so there's a common base to build from. You just have to engage in that conversation and say, these are our values. What are your values? And how do we relate to each other? And how can we help you pass those values to your children too? And I will do one thing I would like to say about immigration policy. So I talk in the book about what the Conservatives did right and what they didn't. And one of the things was on immigration, they changed the family reunification policy. Yeah. Right. And they changed it to the super visa, only 2 years at a time, over 10. The Liberals now have come in and said, we'll give you a 7-year super visa, one shot, right? So for grandparents coming in who maybe are going to be helping take care of the children,
Yes.
or they have security, they know 7 years as opposed to that was a mistake. The recognizing the importance of family starts at different levels. It's immigration policy too. So I said conservatives have to change that. They have to go back to what was before was to say family reunification is a priority.
To review all those policies.
100%. So they have to do a lot of different things. They'll be very busy.
Very good. Okay, we are talking to Tasha Kheiriddin, and she has written a very interesting book, The Right Path for Conservatives. Okay, how they can come back to power, what mistakes they made, how they can improve, what new policies they can bring. So this is the book. We are talking to her. This conversation will continue just after a small break. Okay, so we are back with Tasha Kheiriddin, and she's telling us that she has interviewed hundreds of people to know what mistakes conservatives are making and how they can improve, what kind of policies they can bring back to come back to the power. Tasha, another issue which I'm feeling right now for conservative is that when people know that this party is not going to come to power, so they get away from the party, the good candidates. So to fight with the NDP or liberals, they need very strong, very good candidates. So right now I can feel that I don't see much enthusiasm in the people to join Conservative Party, to be their candidate, because they think, oh no, it's wasted of time, we are not going to win at the end of the election, so why to put so much time, money and hard work over there. So how they can change this perception also to bring good candidates in the elections. End of the day, it's election game.
That's a very good point. Politics is a very difficult profession these days too. A lot of people stay away because they don't want to be involved and be attacked and all this. But I will take an example of a conservative who's doing it well, and that's Doug Ford here in Ontario, because Doug Ford made a priority for his candidates to recruit candidates who were on the school board, who were municipal, maybe mayors, municipal councillors, because they had a community base, right? And this was an advantage for them because not only did they know people, but they could bring that to the government to say, this is what my community is telling me, because I've been working in the community for many. So I say one of the things the Conservatives have failed to do, especially in Toronto, where I live, is to get people onto city councils, to encourage Conservatives to run for the lowest level.
The grassroots level.
Right. It's lowest, but it's actually the most important because it touches people directly. And then those candidates percolate up.
Yes.
The NDP does this really well. They have a lot of people, especially in Toronto, they run. It's not official because you're not a party, but you can support them. So that is one of the things I think is important. And that would also actually change the makeup of the party and its connection to New Canadians, because you vote for your councillors first, right? You know who they are, and then they know their community. So it would be a way of building connection. And it takes time though. And this is the thing. Conservatives, they have to, like you said, they have to look like they've got a winning team or else no one's going to play. But I think if the next leader makes that a priority and people know about it, then there will be more interest in joining.
Okay, we are hearing lots of rumors. We'll have midterm elections again very soon. We are not sure about that. Maybe in the next summer or fall, we don't know. But the day by day, liberals are losing their ground. Their popularity is declining. I have heard again that maybe they will have new leader who will go for the election. Who will be the leader? Who will replace Mr. Trudeau? We don't know whether Mr. Trudeau will go for another election or not. They will get a midterm leader for the elections. We don't know about that. But if elections come soon, in a year time, the new leader of the party will have hardly any time to settle down and look for good candidates and reunite the party again. So I don't know how much they will be prepared and how long they need the time, but but all I can tell you, yes, this is the right opportunity for them, the next federal elections. People are looking for a change at the national level, at the federal level, but how much advantage Conservatives can grab, we don't know, because during the last two elections we saw People were looking for a change. We were expecting conservative government, but at the end of Andrew Scheer's time, it didn't happen. And same happened in the last elections also. There was surge. There was gain in the popularity by Conservative Party, but at the end again they settled with the same number of seats, and they couldn't make the government. So we don't know what's going to happen in the next election now. But anything you want to say, tell us at the end to wind up this conversation.
Sure. I don't know when it's going to be either, but I wish I had a crystal ball, but I don't know. I think the Liberals are going to see who wins the leadership of the Conservative Party, and they're going to judge from that. Mr. Trudeau is having a very difficult time. As you know, his personal popularity also, he's under great attack. The Conservatives are leading in the polls. So I don't think they will go to an election soon. I think it would be to their disadvantage.
Wait for the next 3-4 years?
No.
Full term?
I don't think they're going to wait that long. I think they're going to see when the moment is right. And if Mr. Trudeau decides he's become a liability, or his party does, they'll have a leadership race, which will take a few months on their end. So I don't think we're going to have a snap election. I would be very surprised. I think we might see an election, though, in the next year, yes. I don't think it's going to go 2 years.
Okay.
I would be very surprised if they waited that long. But in the next year, I think we could see one. So the Conservatives have some runway, but like you said, it's not as long as a lot of people think, so they've got to get on it.
Okay, I'm dealing with all the Liberal ministers, leaders for the last 5-10 years, particularly since Mr. Trudeau took over the leadership. This time, this government, I can't see that kind of energy in them, that kind of passion in them. It looks that they're just passing the time, So again, that's what my point again is that, yes, this is the right time for the Conservatives. Liberal Party and their candidates, their member of parliaments, their ministers even, they understand that they are going through very tough time, very hard time. So the only party which can replace them is Conservative. NDP is not too far for that. So the only party which can replace Liberals is Conservative. And how much they can get the advantage of this opportunity, it depends upon them.
Well, that's what I say in the book. I say that the opening is the center-right, because to your point, the NDP and the Liberals have, their marriage of convenience over here on the left, and many Liberals have been very upset by this. Bill Morneau even spoke publicly and said the party has abandoned any goal of wealth creation. It's just about redistributing money. So the opportunity is there, but the Conservatives have to seize that. They have to make sure they can get that center-right vote in the suburbs, in urban centers, not just out west or in rural Canada, because that's not enough. So they have to be able to reassure people that their team is the one that is inclusive and welcoming and will listen to them.
Have opened their arms now.
Exactly. Build the big tent.
Embrace the people, which
Yes.
they're not doing right at the moment.
Well, they're not, and they have to, I think, resolve that issue about how far to the right they will go, because the People's Party of Canada is not the mainstream of Canada. There are people who are also, the whole vaccination issue is, affecting people's political choices. It wasn't an issue 2 years ago, right? It's divided people. But the Conservatives have to find a way to reconcile that, but not turn off center-right voters, because there are many people who were very divided, even in families, on that issue. So it should not be an issue for the next election. They have to find a way to not make it an issue, or else it will work against them.
Thank you, Tasha. Thank you
Great
for coming to
pleasure.
our studio.
Thank you so
And I'm
much.
sure Conservative leadership will read this book.
I hope so.
You
I hope they all buy it.
You have worked very hard.
Thank
You have made their job easy.
Thank you.
But how much they can, get benefit of your hard work, it will depend upon them.
Yes.
But thank you so much for coming to our studio. And this is the book, guys. From where they can get it?
You can get it in bookstores, on Amazon. And opbooks.com.
Okay. The Right Path is the book by Tasha Kheiriddin. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.